Okay, welcome back. We are here with our object we created last time. Maybe you want to take our object from somebody else from the cloud, feel free to do this. And the first thing we're gonna do today is use another light because we're gonna do some animations. We're gonna rotate the camera around the object. So today we want the whole object to be visible. And if we do that with point lights, we have to set like at least 3-4 point lights. But there is an easier way. We take an area light, scale it up, and bring it up. So this is kind of a plane which is emitting light. And I'm gonna go 1500 watts because when we look at this, we have pretty big dimensions. So this object is like 10 meters synthesized, and therefore we need a little bit more light. And let's check this really short. Okay, we're gonna duplicate this, bring it down with G for grab and then Z for the Z axis, and now I'm gonna rotate it around the X axis with 180 degrees. And now we have light from the bottom and from the top. So far for our lighting. Sometimes when you have problems with your animation or you need to crank up the light volume very high, this is also very important later. If you do something with physics simulations, always consider the size. You need to check the scale for the size because the dimensions, because this is kind of an empty void. You cannot really see how big it is. So this is a very common error source, that you have huge objects and you don't realize it. So yeah, keep this in mind for the future. Let's talk about the concept of keyframes. Let's do it really simple. We're going to frame 0 down here, and I grab this, I press I, insert keyframe menu, and I want to translate the location. So now down here we have a keyframe. Let's go to 30, grab this, move it around the X axis, and I press again I, location. And what it does is it's taking the coordinates from this keyframe and from this keyframe, and it's interpolating between them. Keyframing is a system which recurs in a lot of programs. You have it in Adobe After Effects, Premiere. I always like doing loops because you can render a 10-second video and it can run forever. Like normally, I think when you have a good loop, people will watch the loops 3-4 times before they realize it's a loop and going on forever. So how can we achieve a perfect loop in animation? The first thing I mentioned today in the lecture, we will use this noise loop machine. And yeah, we have the frame merge, FPS. I'm just gonna export this real quick. And let's check if it's a perfect loop. Yes, perfect. All right, let's bring this in here. have our first solution for a perfect loop. Our next method will only work with the relationship between the null object and the displacement object, but before we do that, I want to show you one more thing. You see, through the displacement here, I have these situations where it's completely involving with itself, and to fix this you can go to the mid level and crank it up or down a little bit. Yeah, so it's almost gone. Is it still interesting? Yes, okay. Let's keep working with this. We still have that video texture here, and if I only give it one frame, it's turning into a picture. Then, yeah, let's just keep it like this. And now we can take our null object again, and remember, if we move it, it's gonna change the shape. But there's one very popular option to animate displacement with null object, which is assigning it to a circle and then making it spin around the object which is to be displaced. But in my opinion, it's a little bit extra work, because what you actually can do, which is working just fine, is just take that object and rotate it. But there's one major problem with it I'm going to show you now. Let's go to frame 0, and I have the null object selected. I go over here to the rotation and the property tab, and I just press I, and now it applied new keyframes. Now I can go to the last frame and just let's put 360 here. Zack, and now let's play it. So you see it's kind of glitching like crazy. Right now, because the loop is made through that keyframes, we're not dependent on the 200 frames anymore. So let's go with 1500 frames. You can use this toggle down here and select this one. Be sure you only have selected one. Let's go to the back. And one more thing. There's the graph editor. And this is the animation speed. So you can see it's starting a little bit slower, speeding up, and in the end slowing a little bit down. Normally this is very useful if you want to make more natural animations, because like any object moving, it has a acceleration and a deceleration phase. But right now we don't want this, so we press A. So we select all keyframes, right click, interpolation type, linear. So it will always have the same speed. And let's go back to our timeline. So that's the problem of this method, because if we want smooth animations, we have to make them really, really long. Or what is also working is if you scale this up to a certain degree, the displacement is going to be less, but also more boring. I want to show you that for this technique we can use also different things. So these are all static. And yeah. What you could do, of course, is let's delete this for now. Nope, not the whole object, only the keyframes. If you want to use the same technique with only a few keyframes, you can just press I, go, doesn't matter, let's do location, rotation, scale. Okay, now we can use this. No, wait, we need to move this. Now we choose this, move it over here, press I again. Let's move a little bit further. Location, rotation, scale, and now to make it a loop, we go to the end, we choose the first one and we copy and paste it. And it's still pretty fast, but you can imagine if you just make the distance less, it's gonna be also slower. So this is kind of a workaround. But I think to continue from here, it makes sense to take the displacement video map methods. We're going back to 240. We deleted the keyframes for this. I'm going to choose this and load in our animation. Okay, nice. I want to talk about keyframes a little bit more. Yeah, like the idea about keyframes is you can literally put keyframes onto anything. So let's put keyframes on our light. And to do that, you just hover over this, like over anything you want to influence, and you press I, and you can see down here we have a keyframe. So let's turn it to here, reduce it to 50, another keyframe. Paste it here. And we have a small light animation. Let's go for the second light. Going back to the beginning. And we're gonna keyframe the color. And right when it's dark here, I want it to become red. Keyframe it again. And yeah, you can always fine-tune the timing of your keyframes by just pushing this on the timeline. So let's check. It's not that impressive right now, but you get the idea. I think you will figure out some nice stuff with this. Okay, so much for keyframes. The next thing is auto keying. It's this recording button here, and it's also kind of simple concept. You press the record button, then you move something, and it's inserting keyframes by itself. This only works while your animation is running down here. I think in general to do the auto keying, it's good to expand your timeline so you have enough place and time, because as soon as it will start again, like as soon as you're at the end of your timeline and it's starting over, it will replace the keyframes you already did set. And in the end, when you're done with your keyframing, you can just choose the keyframes and put them into the timeline scope you want to have in the end. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna keyframe the camera. We're going here to view again, camera, the cursor, and we can move the camera here like this. So you activate this, you play, and then you probably gonna wonder why it's not showing up for you. This will be the case if you're in the wrong object. So remember, we're animating the camera, so we're actually having keyframes on the camera. I'm gonna turn this off and play it from the beginning. And here you can see how I'm moving the camera. There is one more option to do this, and that is, like, we don't have this selected. We go to view, navigation, fly navigation, and now we have kind of the interface of a video game. So with WASD you move around. If you use this, you can, like, if you just use your mouse, you can watch around. But there's one problem, like I just stopped pressing W, but it's still accelerating. So you can get some cool shots with it, but you have to practice this a little bit. And one problem I always have is that I don't have a shortcut for this because I don't use it so much. Play it, view, navigation, fly navigation. Perfect. Let's check the camera. I think, okay, let's start at frame 800. And now I just select all this before here and delete it. Okay, last camera animation method for today. First we go to the object constraint properties, track 2, and then just select our displacement object. And what happened is that the camera will always look at this object from now on. So if I grab this, you can see we are always looking at it. Of course, you can set individual keyframes for the camera from this point and move it around, but we can also take a circle curve, scale it up, bring it a little bit more up, select the camera first, then the circle, Control P, and set parent to object. What happened now is that the camera is locked to the circle. That means if I rotate the circle, it will also rotate the camera. And if I bring the circle up, we can also play a little bit with the perspective. So let's start here at frame 0 and bring this also to 0, keyframe it, last frame 360, keyframe it. Also we want to keyframe the location here, and here go to the middle and bring this up, keyframe it again. Okay, let's check this. Now we see at some points we are leaving the field of view with our object. Of course we can replace the camera, but also, oh yeah, by the way, the camera, like, look at the Bezier circle here, the camera is in here because it's parented. So go down here to the camera settings. We have the focal length and also the depth of field, which is the f-stop. Yeah, maybe write me in the Telegram group if you want a short explanation how cameras work, or if you know some stuff about it, or if it's just not interesting to you, because I think if you want to go a little bit deeper into animation, it's kind of important to understand a little bit. So we will basically bring the focal length down, and so also our point of view, our field of view will change. So let's look at the depth of field. I choose an interesting camera angle. I deleted the circle for the animation. I also choose the camera and deleted the constraint, and turn the focal length back to 50 millimeter. You can zoom it in this time, or like I will just stay at 50 for this. And I activated depth of field. And to choose a place in the image where we want our camera to focus, we can actually create a new null object, and try to bring it where we want it. Yes, perfect. Let's choose the camera again. And now we can go to focus on object, and we take the empty number 1. Yeah, I think this number will not affect anymore, right? Yeah, so if we delete this, you see it's not gonna focus. Like, you can use this to do it manually, like the focus ring on a camera, but also we can just use this empty. Of course, you could use the whole object as focus object, but if you use the empty, it's much more precise. You see? Okay, so let me know if you guys want more theoretical content about cameras. I could also explain you how the noise is working we're using in Touch Designer. And yeah, as always, have fun learning.